I am a biologist here at the Aquarium of the Bay, and I help take care of our sharks and rays here.
So I'm a senior biologist here at Aquarium of the Bay, and one of my primary responsibilities is to care for the sharks, rays, and skates at our aquarium. Now we have many different species, including the broad-nosed seven-gill shark, the leopard shark, the taupe shark, swell sharks, horn sharks, some guitar fish. We have lots of different types of sharks and rays, and those all belong to a group that we call elasmobranchs. So they're all in that same family. So we have lots of different diverse species of elasmobranchs that are representative of the animals you can actually find right here in San Francisco Bay. So as part of my job here, I care for them. I make sure that they have the food, the vitamins, the veterinary care that they actually require.
Sharks and rays here at Aquarium of the Bay in our care get excellent health care. We make sure they have a plentiful and natural diet. So we give them a diet of fish and shellfish on a regular basis. And we usually feed them in different techniques.
That can include a lot of different things, including target training our animals. So our broad-nosed seven-gill sharks are actually trained to go to a target. And that's really beneficial for a lot of different reasons, but particularly when we want to take care of their health and their safety. When we have them trained to go to a target, we can have them voluntarily come into our medical pool. We can pull blood from them, we can get morphometric data on them where we measure them with our veterinarian right there. And the more we get them habituated to that kind of handling, the less stressful it is for them and the better care we can provide for them.
It's great for people to come here that don't spend a lot of time out in the ocean. We get people from all over the world visiting San Francisco Bay, and they might not know what's right in our backyard here. San Francisco Bay is a really productive and important marine habitat, especially for shark species. These bat rays here were born about a year ago in our care right here in Aquarium of the Bay. It's really great that we're able to have a productive or a successful breeding program, and we're able to share with the public the importance of San Francisco Bay, a healthy ecosystem, and to help protect sharks and rays.
Now, a lot of people don't know that sharks really aren't very aggressive. They are predators, but they're not this voracious predator that we often see on TV. So the number one question I get here at the aquarium is, why aren't the sharks snacking on their tank mates in this shark tunnel? I'm keeping them very well fed and satisfied, and they're not going to be spending lots of energy trying to chase down another animal when I'm feeding them really high nutritious food. We actually get human grade seafood. We get the same shipment of food that all of the seafood restaurants get down here. So they're getting lots of really great food like salmon and sardine. Those are some of their absolute favorite food items. Now, the other thing is that sharks are actually extremely cautious animals. They're not going to attack something without being extremely sure it's what they want. So that's why you might see on a documentary or something, a shark will kind of check it out and pace back and forth multiple times. And it doesn't matter if that shark is starving or if they just ate yesterday, they're going to be that cautious because they want to be sure that what they're about to grab to eat is something they actually want, which is why it is so unlikely to have an incidental shark bite when you're out in the water. I'm constantly swimming with these sharks. People find that very surprising. They're always wondering why we don't have fenders or something to protect us, or why we're not in a cage, for example. Again, they're just extremely docile animals that you might not really know or understand. We're diving with these animals all the time. So we're coming in the exhibit to clean in the exhibit. We're coming to monitor their health. So Madeline and I will come in and check out a shark, look at them up close, make sure that their body condition is good, that there's no abrasions or anything that we need to get a closer look at.
Leopard sharks are found right here in San Francisco Bay. They're one of our smaller predatory sharks. We call them mesopredators. They're distinctly noticeable by their spot patterns that we find here. They're not what we would call a top predator. They mainly feed on the bottom and eat small fish and invertebrates like shellfish.
I have to say my favorite shark is the broad-nosed seven-gill shark. That's the largest shark that we have here at our aquarium. It's also the apex predator in San Francisco Bay. And not just San Francisco Bay, but they're an apex predator along our entire coastline, the Eastern Pacific coastline. And you can find them on our coastline here, you can find them in South America, in South Africa, and lots of different places around the world. But we think that our population here is distinct from other populations. It's really important when we're talking about populations of sharks that we understand everything that might impact that individual population. The worldwide population was deemed data deficient by the IUCN Red List. They're the ones that determine if an animal is critically endangered or otherwise. But when you hear that something is critically endangered, typically the IUCN Red List is helping evaluate that species. Now, data deficient does not mean that we don't know anything about that species. We actually know quite a bit about seven gills, but we don't know enough to know how well they're going to survive over the next few generations. So when we're talking about conservation, there's just not enough information to actually critically evaluate what they need and what we can do to help that species. Now that all changed this last December 2020. They actually got reevaluated as vulnerable worldwide, and that classification is the one right before being endangered. But it does mean their populations are declining. We're not exactly sure why yet, other than some basic understanding of anthropogenic impacts, which is human influence on the environment and on that population. So what we're trying to do is actually start to learn some critical information about this species so that we know what they need to survive and thrive to adulthood and actually contribute back into the reproductive population. San Francisco Bay is the only place in the entire world where you can readily find the pups, the juveniles, the subadults, and those big reproductive adults that visit during the summer months. Now, they definitely exist other places. There must be what we call nursery grounds in other places. And nursery grounds are those places where the juveniles depend on that habitat to be protected and be sustained until they're large enough to protect themselves in a larger habitat. But the fact that we have it right here in our backyard allows us to ask some really critical questions about this species. Because we have every age stage of that species, we can start to ask, what does a pup need to get to a juvenile? What does a juvenile need to get to a subadult? And what does that subadult need to get to that sexually reproductive animal that can contribute back into the population?
Growing up, I knew that I wanted to learn more about sharks and that I wanted to help protect sharks. For people that are interested in getting into marine biology, I would absolutely say get involved in your local communities and get involved in your local aquarium and maybe come and volunteer and intern, get a job, and seek degrees in marine biology to help be better stewards of the environment and ocean.
So what I would say is find a really great mentor. It can be extremely hard to get into shark science at sometimes, but it shouldn't be. And it's getting easier and easier to figure out how to get the education and the experience that you need to become a shark scientist. I would encourage you to look at opportunities that aren't necessarily a pay to play, or you have to pay money to get that experience. It's really hard to say no to those opportunities, and unfortunately, the current situation to get in the industry still facilitates pay to play type experience. But there are organizations out there where you can get hands-on experience that's part of your job or part of a really great educational program. One program that I would absolutely check into is the Field School out of Miami, Florida. As a student, they will take you on their liveaboard vessel and teach you everything that you need to know to get hands-on experience with shark science. I will be doing that myself to make sure that I can facilitate really great shark science here at our aquarium. It's a really great opportunity that's very inclusive and has scholarship opportunities if you're prohibited by the cost. Another program you can check out is the Aquarium Science Program. It's in Newport, Oregon. I did that program, and it teaches you everything you need to know to be a biologist like me to work at a facility like this. They give you great hands-on experience, including with sharks, and it's a really wonderful educational opportunity. And lastly, I strongly recommend that you check out Minorities in Shark Science, or MISS is their acronym. They're doing some incredible work to make sure that shark science is inclusive for everyone, and they have some incredible scholarships and fellowships that can support their members to become a shark scientist in this field. Know yourself, and if you have a question that you want to ask that nobody else has answered, you're already a shark scientist. So find the mentors that can facilitate you to help you answer those questions. If you want to be in this field, there's space for you here.